very early on a bitterly cold morning in November 1918, in a railroad car somewhere in the French forest, an armistice was signed by the Republic of Germany and the Allied forces, agreeing that at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, all hostilities along the Western Front would cease and World War I would come to an end. Each year since, our nation has held an annual day of commemoration, once known as Armistice Day, honoring those who served and died in the Great War. Then in 1954, President Eisenhower signed into law a bill that established November 11th as Veterans Day, declaring it a national day of remembrance for all of those who have fought or died in all of America's wars. Veterans Day is a day when we fly our flag proudly, yet respectfully. A day we find television filled with war movies and documentaries that chronicle the lives of so many who fought to defend the freedoms that we enjoy today. And a day families gather together to give thanks for the lives they live. While we cannot help but remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice for their country, the focus of this day is on the living, those who survived and walk among us. We don't have to look far to find them. They are among us. They are around us. We've got a base just a mile from our front door. Some wear the scars of battle that all can see, while others have wounds that are hidden, but yet run deep into their very soul. Some proudly extol the benefits of military life, while others admit candidly that the tough times that they and their families have experienced and endured left all of them changed forever. Some we can point out in a crowd, yet others seem to blend into the background. Their mild manner and easy temperament, a stark contrast to the Hollywood image of the rough and tumble soldier, unwavering in their patriotism and devotion to a country they love so dearly. Not all airmen are like Jimmy Stewart or Steve McQueen. Not all soldiers like Audie Murphy or John Wayne. Not all sailors like Russell Crowe or Tom Cruise. Sure, we know there's some like that, but the average service person is just like us. What sets them apart is their sense of calling and commitment to our country, and their genuine desire to see our nation thrive at home and abroad, so that you and I can live lives free from oppression and tyranny. Most don't serve for the awards or accolades they might receive, but because they love this country so much, they are willing to give everything, even themselves, to ensure its safety and freedom. That is the kind of love Christ has for us. Because his love was and is so great, he is willing to give everything, even himself, that we might live in freedom and safety from the bondage of sin. While not everyone is called to serve in the military, all are called to love one another. To love each other with the same love that Christ has for us. A love that enables us to place the needs of others before the wants and desires in our own lives. Is Jesus asking us to lay down our lives for another, as he did for us? In a way, I think he is. But let me explain. I don't think he is asking us to stand up and be martyrs for our faith or the faith of others. Although we know this can happen. Our church year is filled with feasts that remember the love of others and the manifestation of that love in their lives. Instead, today's gospel implies that he is asking us to lay down, to set aside the things in this life that offer shallow happiness for the pure joy that is found in meeting the genuine needs of others, even if it costs us everything we have. To understand this, all we need to do is look back to the promises we make during our baptism or when we've reaffirmed our baptismal covenant. Each promise helps us to identify and set aside those things our individual human nature cherishes, so that in community we might realize the pure joy that comes out of the grace and peace found in our reconciled relationships with God and with one another. Once we have experienced that pure joy of knowing God, being known by God, or knowing one another, how could we ever imagine life without it? How many of us, once experiencing the clarity of a television antenna, or for some of our younger ones, high-def cable, would ever want to go back to watching TV like they did before? Once that joy is realized, our lives are changed forever. And how dramatic is that change? Well, just about as dramatic as the change a new recruit experiences that first day of boot camp. Having raised their hand in allegiance, they begin to learn about the core values their oath professed, and that will guide them the rest of their time in the military, and probably the rest of their lives. Over time, they are transformed from one kind of person to another. Christians undergo a similar transformation following their baptism. Like a military enlistment oath, the baptismal covenant helps define the core values we will strive to live by. Whereas the military stresses values such as service before self, integrity in all things, at the heart of Christian values is God's love for us and our love for God. It is out of this shared love that we find values such as friendship, loyalty, respect, compassion, with, to, and for each other. Not just with those with whom we agree, but even those with whom we disagree vehemently. I recognize these core values are not unique to Christianity. But what sets Christians apart is that we recognize that we do not possess the will or the strength to uphold them on our own. We are not an army of one. We alone do not make the community what it is. The Christian community exists and is upheld only with God's help and through the faithfulness of God's love for us. Thank God it's not up to us. If it was up to us alone, then things like this election the past week would just rip us apart. Put a chasm between us that can never be filled. Living lives in service to Christ, we will find that one day we will be called to support, maybe even defend those who are not like us, those who do not think like us, even those who may not like us very much, but who we can see struggle against a power that seeks to oppress them just as it seeks to oppress us. Therefore, we must prepare for battle. A battle we know that we cannot win alone. Just as thoroughly as the soldiers, airmen, and sailors prepare for theirs. In the end, each of us will become a veteran in the war against sin. Some of us will bear the visible scars of battle, and some will have wounds that run deep into the very soul. Some will extol the benefits of being in the kingdom and army of God, while others will share the life-changing events and experiences that have occurred along the way. Some will stand out, like those saints we remember throughout the year. And some will blend quietly into the background, living simple lives, faithful to their calling. In the end, it won't matter how our service is marked. What will matter is that we have never faced it alone. And that in the grace and peace of God's love, anything is possible. And knowing that there is hope. Hope not just for the present, but hope for the future as well.